So if you keep getting the same objection at the end when you're trying to close the insured, then you need to put something into your presentation so then that way you do not have to overcome that objection at the very end. Welcome to the Final Expense Sales Academy, the hub for mastering the art of final expense life insurance sales. If you're looking to become a pro in the final expense industry, you're in the right place. My name is Kyle Williams, and I'm your host to go through the ins and outs of the final expense business, from tips to tricks to industry insights. We cover everything you need to close deals with confidence, provide true value to your clients, and become a better insurance agent. So hit that subscribe button. Let's get started on elevating your sales game one video at a time. Hey guys, in this episode, we are going to talk about what to do if you keep getting the same objection at the close when you're trying to close the proposed insured that you're looking at and talking to. So if you keep getting the same objection at the end when you're trying to close the insured, then you need to put something into your presentation so then that way you do not have to overcome that objection at the very end. So if you have a great presentation, when you go to close the insured, there'll be no objections because they fully understand the product that you're presenting them. If you're getting objections at the end, then they're a little hesitant and they're missing some piece of information so that way they can fully jump on board and purchase the policy that you're presenting to them. So be sure that you listen to the objections and make note of them that you hear when you're trying to close the insured. And if it's something that's avoidable, put it into your presentation and make sure you effectively communicate it clearly so that way that they understand. So let me give you an example. Let's say you're sitting with a proposed insured and they say that they need to think about it. You respond, well, what is it that you need to think about? They say that they need to wait until they get their paycheck on the 3rd to get the policy started. You overcome that objection by simply stating, you don't have to make your first payment until the 3rd of the month. You can go ahead and get your application in and make sure that you're approved, and we'll start it on the 3rd of next month. More times than not, the proposed insurer is going to go for that, and then you'll finish up getting the sale. But this is a 100% avoidable objection at the very end. So here is how you can take that objection off the table at the very end by simply putting it into your presentation. So here's how. If you simply carve out a little bit more time in your presentation and find out how they get their paycheck every month or how they're paid and when they're paid, now you can emphasize that point with them and let them know that the way that our insurance companies do it is that they set it up to pay whenever they get their paycheck. So you don't even have to make your first payment till you get your next paycheck. You get your next paycheck on the 3rd, right? Okay. So we can actually make sure that you're approved if you see a plan that you like, and you won't have to pay one dime until you get your next paycheck. Okay? By covering this in your presentation, it takes that objection completely off at the end. And then really what you're doing is you're just showing them plans and they're picking which one that they want to go with. So be sure to listen to the objections that you're receiving at the very end of the close, because this can shed some light on what you need to implement into your presentation. Personally, the bar for me is to nail a presentation so then that way there are absolutely zero objections at the end. It's just coming down to which plan do you want. And then they select the plan, and then we get the application started. That is the bar for me. That is what I try to achieve in every household, because I want to cover everything on the front end and take any possible objection off on the back end. And simply how I did this was just listening to the feedback in the sales presentation. So listening to those objections, and I put in some road maps before I got there, so then that way I can overcome them before they even come up. So be sure to pay attention to exactly what you're hearing. So the longer that you sell, you will also begin to anticipate objections by listening to what the insured is saying and building rapport and in the presentation phase that you cover. So by anticipating objections, you can take them off the table as well. So it's one thing in knowing what the objection may be by listening to them. But the other thing is starting to anticipate objection. This really just comes with experience. The more you do it, you're going to see the same objections come up over and over and over again. But if you listen to them, you'll start catching up on some common behavior that people will fall into, and then you can start to implement some things that will help you just cover an objection that you feel may come. So here's an example. So let's say you're sitting with an insured who has a pre-need life insurance policy. They're paying twice the premium for the same amount of coverage that you currently have. During the interaction that they say multiple times that they're not doing anything because they need to figure out what to do with their current policy. They state this at the very beginning, in the middle, all the way throughout. By listening to this, you can anticipate what an objection may be at the very end when you try to close them whenever you propose your plans to them. Even though our premiums are probably at least half the cost, that objection is going to come up. So what might that objection be at the very end? Well, it's simply going to be that they need to figure out what to do with their current policy. So how do you overcome that? You implement into your presentation how they can transition from one policy to another. You lay out the steps very clearly and speak to them in hypothetical terms. So just like this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you some plans, and we'll discuss them, okay? After discussing them, if you see a plan that you like, we will do an application and make sure that you're approved, okay? Now, you mentioned that you want to check, you get your check about the 3rd of the month, right? So you don't have to pay anything until you get your check on the 3rd, okay? Now, as far as your current policy, it is real simple to discontinue paying for your current policy that you have now. What we will do is we'll fill out a replacement form with our application, which sends the insurance company notice that you intend on swapping. I will also give you the phone number to the insurance company to call and stop the bank drafts and let them know that you intend to cancel. And then they will send you a form if there's any cash value in the policy, and they'll send you that cash value. It's real simple, and I will help you all throughout the process. But I just wanted to give you the roadmap so that way you understand how this process works, okay? Now, see how I walked her through the whole process before she even picked out a plan? So now she knows the procedure for swapping. Now I just gave her permission that she can swap. Now, simply laying out how the process works, it takes out the fear of the unknown for the insured. And now they have the power to make a decision. It completely takes off the table of how they're going to deal with their current policy. And now you can close the deal. This is the power of anticipating and listening to common objections that you hear at the close and incorporating them into your presentation. So then that way you take the objection completely off the table and you can close the deal with ease. So be sure you're listening, take it and apply it next week, and you'll be amazed about how much easier the deals come for you. So if you have any questions, comment below, reach out to us. Be sure to subscribe so that way you catch all the latest content. If you receive something valuable here, share it on social media, share it with your friends, and we will see you in the next episode.